I wanted to start with a picture of this chap. It was actually an inadvertent apology to Martin. Last time I, as I said, inadvertently did a bit of Scots bashing by bringing up Paul Gascoigne's goal in the '96 Euro Championships and dumping Henry on his arse before volleying in the back of the net and following up with a dentist chair celebration. So I just wanted to even it up and show you this chap who is actually, as you all know, I know you know, it's on right, you're about to tell me, David Galtieri, who scored in 8.3 seconds for San Marino versus England in 1993. I don't know what the score is, but by the look of it, he's not playing tonight. And that's old Stuart Pearce's shirt, so if you want to have a laugh, go on YouTube, because I certainly did this afternoon. So sorry about that, Martin. Some things, I'm going to split this into a game of two halves, fortunately not for 90 minutes, only for about 5 each, or 4.5 now. And it'll be a bit of it's on the basis of what I've done in the past. I've worked in 4 retailers, people like Kitbag, Brewer, and most recently American Golf, where I bought Demandware, and you can see there's a bit of a trend there. I may have got a job on the back of it, who knows. And then the second half will be a little bit about what I think is going to happen next year. We're sort of sold as what's on the roadmap, but I took one look at the lawyer and decided that wasn't a good idea. So I thought I'd do some stuff, summarise a recent, well in fact recent as in the day before yesterday and the day before that, Demandware, what are they called? What are they called? Conference, thank you very much. I was paying attention on this. And where lots of people from around the world, literally around the world, talked about a lot of things that are going to be happening next year, which they think are going to be important to them. So, onto the bits, sort of the low-hanging fruit, as it were. I think some of this is achievable by Christmas. It depends, you know, some things are easy to some people and some things are not so easy to some people, depending on how big your wallet is. But anyway, some guided selling. Crocs do a good example of it, and it's relatively simple, but you can do a bit of sliding over colour and choosing your size and the styles you want, and it will come up with some products that you like. So pretty decent way of doing it, pretty engaging, quite on brand. I think these guys do it better. Brooks running. They've got a shoe advisor, so for people who you don't really know what you want, other than a pair of shoes, which hopefully you got that far, there's a whole sort of process that you can go through by clicking start, and it does this great stuff to ask you whether you're a man or a woman. The questions don't get much harder than that, but it's actually quite engaging, and it's great for the brand. And I think that you end up finding what sort of things that you're likely to buy. So, to do with pronation, and I didn't know that was anything to do with running, but apparently it is, and things like that. Then it can tell you, well, I wear the Adidas shoes. I've never been to Brooks Running before, but they've got some good stuff. What's it similar to? And it tells you that it's similar to all these shoes that you've come up with, which I think is really quite cool. They've actually spent the time mapping it, which is one hell of a job, and I'm glad it wasn't me who did that. So that's pretty good. And then they also go on to a size selector to help you decide whether, if you buy the 8 or the 9 or the 10 or whatever it may be, whether it's going to pinch a bit or not, which I think is a really nice feature. And they have improved conversion, they have improved bounce rates. I can't tell you about how much because I simply don't know, but it's been good news for them. And there are other examples of it at places like Clarins and Burton Snowboards and other places that I've forgotten. So, customer services, we've talked about this. I'm afraid to say there's a bit of a theme on some of these things, you may be thinking, so I'm going to try and vary it slightly. But one of the things I remember at the golf place is that when I went on to go and buy something, even though I'm a golfer and been playing since I'm 6, I still don't know what club to buy. And if I don't know what club to buy, and I've been playing golf since I was 6, God knows the person who's taken up 5 years ago, for example. So product experts who are sensitive to customers who are buying, because let's face it, they're probably possibly going to be buying some products not for them, and so it's pretty important that we help them. And also, if they can't speak the same language and they don't know what they want, that doesn't help either. So what multilingual customer services support do you have? Different contact methods. I do some work for a smaller retailer, and we don't have a lot of things like chat, which I know is working very well for lots of other people. Now, I know a lot of these things may be not possible by Christmas, but you get the theory of it already. And open all hours. I remember looking at the stats at the golf place again, and between 8 and 10 on a Sunday night was a pretty busy shopping time, yet we were absolutely closed to any calls that were coming through. So, is it possible to extend life of people working on a Sunday? I don't know. I perhaps wouldn't be too keen, but there are people who will be. So that's worth thinking about. Optimized search. Now we've talked about that. I'm just going to say here's three numbers. which I've taken from a site that I work with, and they show that the site conversion for people across the site is 1.85. The people who visit without search, it's 1.58, and the people who visit with site search is 8.21. So there's quite a big difference. The people who do engage in search, on-site search, they're obviously using it for a reason. So we need to make sure that they find what they want. And I know that at Christmas, people tend to start searching more, and maybe that's an effect because people are buying for other people. Ordinarily, you know what you want, more or less, except for the people who are searching. But anyway, here's an example. I chose someone, I didn't know who was going to be in the room really, so I didn't want to offend anyone, so I chose someone from New Zealand. I don't think anyone's from New Zealand in this room, and if you are, bugger. And actually, people involved in it are related to me, so hopefully they won't mind too much. But anyway, so I looked at their site and I thought, well, that looks nice. They're in the summer as well, so I mean, there's a bit of a point about multinational. What people are buying at Christmas in New Zealand is obviously not what they're going to be buying here, so be careful about that. And so I did a search. I looked at Indie Summer, so there we go. Sorry, that's just on the left-hand side. And I did a quick search, had a look at that page. Looked very nice, lots of nice dresses. And then I did a search for Indie Summer, and oh, okay. Well, never mind. But I'm sure Indie Summer clothes and products are great. It's just an example. It's literally an example to illustrate the point. Site speed. Now, Demandware customers are lucky they don't have to worry about that sort of thing, and people who use the product or the chat before possibly won't have to worry about it either. But anyway, there are a number of issues here. Search results can be affected, both natural and paid for, if you don't get your search right. And one of the areas you need to look at is across hosting and caching and reducing image and content size, compressing the JavaScript and CSS, and tidy up with third-party integrations. So I know that we all know that. Well, almost all know that, I suppose. So it's just one of those things. It's a bit of housekeeping. I like direct mail. I know lots of people don't like direct mail. People go, it's too expensive, and we haven't got enough margin for it and all that stuff. But I do like it. And I think at Christmas it works pretty well. I remember working at a place called Braw, a nice cashmere company, if you've got 300 quid for a jumper, which I don't. But we used to do some tactical stuff at Christmas, and it was pretty good, and it worked really well. And it was pretty simple, and I'm talking about postcard format here to your most important customers, maybe it's even some new ones, but it gives you the opportunity to do some different stuff. It's testing and learning, no offers, and it's different branded execution, which is sometimes a nice thing. You can't necessarily do it so well on site when you don't know where they're going to go. So it's a prompt, most importantly, to come and buy, and that's all it is. And it's not about how much it costs. It's about what you get back from it is the key thing, I think. Although the FD probably doesn't agree. So that's some tactical low-lying stuff. So we're on to the second half now, and I tend to speak faster towards the second end because I know that everyone wants me to, and I want to get through it, obviously. So looking at next year. So I went to this conference, and there were lots of impressive, intelligent people, and some of us, and we were talking about all sorts of things they were. So I'm representing some of what they were talking about. These are retailers, these are technologists, these are industry thinkers, that kind of thing. So mobile, not a particularly innovative subject, I grant you. But anyway, I will say that payments made easy and convenient for all is something that everyone's talking about. So it's not just for the consumers. Yes, the experience has to be fantastic. We all know that, and we all know how hard it is when you're stabbing buttons that are too small and you're being asked to enter information that you've already entered several times. It's really annoying, and credit cards are annoying. So Apple Pay has started. It's not started here, but it's starting, and people are talking about that kind of disruptive technology, which are going to make things different. Now, the Sage Pay presentation earlier on talks about when cash is going to be up. I don't know, but certainly Apple Pay we think is going to be interesting for people. Lots of us have got their phones for one. Display. We talked about responsive design. We know that it gives you an immediate uplift. Consider it. Lots of people don't. The business I do a bit of consultancy on, we're doing it right now. It's painful. It won't be up in time for Christmas, I'm sure, but it's certainly something that's worth it, certainly for next year. And then apps. I just saw Michael, actually, from POC Studio walk in the room when we were sitting next to in this conference. So sorry, Michael, you're hearing us all over again. But we sat next to each other, and he was expounding the virtues of apps, and I thought that actually sounded quite interesting because they're better for better for the brand. You can give them a completely different experience. And I will say, go and have a look at the Orla Keeley one, which I don't have much resonance with the brand, but I certainly had a look at it, and I enjoyed the experience it got in terms of shopping the look that's a page from. I probably didn't choose the most exciting one in the world, page in the world, but it was just an illustration. The conversion is better, and the loyalty from customers who get into it is great. The question is, how do you get customers to use it? That was my question to Michael. I'm sure he'd be delighted to tell you about it later on. He's just over there taking a photo of his own site. So store enhancements, I put this, I mean, the store enhancement is not to paint it yellow and stick it and make it just a digital store, but this happens to be a customer of Demandware's, but I just like the image more than anything else. But it's about how we can link these two things together. If we look at across a number of areas, the digital experience, how does that cross into the physical? There is a great opportunity. Many of us don't do it very well. I know at American Golf, where I was, we found it very difficult to do any of that. And it was just ahead of our time when I was there. But I'm sure they're getting much better at it now. Smarter inventory management, we know all about that sort of stuff, but your stores become DCs, blah, blah, blah. Your stock turn becomes better because if you have control of your stock, then you know where it is and you can optimize it accordingly. Bringing customer intelligence into the store is great. Understanding who your customers are when they come in and what they like and what they do. Grabbing the opportunity to take more data of them to make that marketing to them and positioning your product to them better in the future is something that's a great opportunity. There's new technology. There's all sorts of stuff about beacons. Last time I heard about beacons, that was Sir Francis Drake lighting them on top was the Spanish Armada came in, but apparently that's more than that now, and they are an opportunity to get smarter with your customer. There's in-store, the tablet stuff. Demandware again has a product for that called a digital store solution, which is a nice way of getting there. Is it the finished article? It's getting there. It's on its way. And then leveraging the product know-how. I mentioned about customer service at the start. I love the fact that people in stores know loads and loads and loads about the product, and how can we get that, reverse that back out to the people who are visiting the website and don't have that opportunity to speak to people directly. I think that's a great opportunity, and I think you can do it through some technologies. I think Live Person is one. But anyway, I would have loved to have had the chance when I was trying to buy that wedge, not knowing about golf, even though I was playing it since I was 6, to tell me which one I should buy, and unfortunately I only got the person in the call centre who didn't know anything about golf. So that was a shame, but that's a big opportunity, and I think it's all part of this brand experience that we're trying to drive. And then content, there's a whole heap of information about content. A guy from New York University, I think it was Stern University, he talks really, really knowledgeably and really, really fast all about content. And if you ever get a chance to hear him, do. It would help if I had his name, but I don't, so I'll try and dredge it up later on. But he was talking about how content, that you before used to go, do you want to go into the content site, or do you want to go into the shop? And he says, you can't do that anymore. It's got to be the same thing. And so having more of it, which we know that businesses like Net-a-Porter does very well, which it will aid the sell, is important. It's a focus on what you're doing, what your product is, what your range is, what your goals are. That's really, really important. And the relevancy across international barriers. We talked about China. Someone mentioned China earlier on. I gave a speech about China the other day, and I don't know a huge amount. Well, I didn't know a huge amount of China. I still don't know a huge amount of China, but I do know that they do like things differently. And if you look at their web pages on Tmall, for example, they'll have 50 photos where we have 5. They'll have user-generated content all over the place. They will have endless pages that you think, God, that's not right. We stopped doing that in 2002. But actually it works very well for them. And their big day of the year, the 11th of November, Singles Day, Tmall took $3.65 billion on that day, whereas 3 years before they'd taken $1 million on that day. So understanding the differences between people and creating content accordingly is where it's at. So that's it for me. I hope it was relatively innovative. I'm getting used to it. But if not, well, sorry.